Okay. So my name is Rodney Thomas, and with me I have Nichelle Nelson and Andrea Thompson Spears, and we are Team Five, and we have done our Horizon report on, or we've done the 2020 Horizon report on trends. So we just kind of want to have a discussion about what we all read and what we're going to report out. So we're just going to move on to the first part here. We've broken it up into five pieces, and we're going to start with social trends. So we'll just be discussing the well-being and mental health, demographic changes, and equity and fair practices.
All righty. So according to a booklet that was put out by the Department of Education, more than a year of staggering loss, grief, isolation, and uncertainty has certainly taken its toll on a lot of our students' mental health. So one of the things that Horizons was pointing to was the future of an app called a Meta app that exposes students to teletherapy so that they are able to access mental health professionals with the click of their phone. We all know that students' schedules are crazy. And so being able to not have to schedule a 9 to 5 appointment in person with a therapist makes technology work for students in enabling them to deal with their mental health stresses, with sleeping issues, the amount of stress that we have as students. Being able to address that will will help students in the future to be able to be open about their mental health challenges.
Okay. Okay. Nichelle, how do you think, personally, or in your experience, how have students, responded to one of the biggest traumas we've had is, the COVID lockdown and isolation and things that follow. So how do you think that has affected some of your students' well-being and mental health?
I can tell you that when COVID hit, I was attending an HBCU. We were told on a Thursday that we were going to take a 2-week spring break rather than a 1 week. By Sunday, the students who lived on campus were told that they had to move out that day. We have international students who were here from Africa. I was attending an HBCU, students who were here from Italy. They had nowhere to go. And with COVID protocols, it wasn't like the doors were open to them. So the stress that they had to deal with continuing their education once those 2 weeks were over, somewhere online, living with someone, it was phenomenal. It was overwhelming.
I can imagine so.
Right.
Yeah, with people figuring out where they're going to go, what they're going to do, and how to stay socially distanced, that probably had a lot of bearing on their mental health, and and then seeing where the equity lied and who gets what services and things like that. I can imagine it was a big issue as well.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate you speaking to the social trends. I think we want to go move to our next piece here, which is going to be technological trends, artificial intelligence, so some AI stuff here, next gen digital learning, and then analytics and privacy questions and how that all plays into the trends in the future.
So with that section of the article, it talks about just tech trends in education and how we're going to from digital grade books to discussion forums online to virtual reality labs, where instead of going to the places, they're offering virtual reality and you get to experience them where you are. So with the artificial intelligence, it is being increasingly it is increasingly used by human instructors for providing like feedback to different students. And it's kind of like a virtual teaching assistant. So where the article talks about some of the technological trends, it talks about the promise and the risk of these trends, because with these technological advances, some of the jobs that people hold will no longer be, because you will have these different AI pieces that will do the job for you. So like one of the examples they use, like Amazon has introduced the Alexa education program. Well, it provides a robot to improve language and translation options for those ESL babies. So that was real interesting to me, because I know as an elementary teacher, sometimes there is a language barrier, and to have something there that can communicate for me, that would be tremendous. So it also talks about the next generation of digital learning environments, and how, and we can pretty much attest to this, how it's becoming much more flexible, using both synchronous and asynchronous learning. And those are terms that we really did not know until COVID happened. It has really, I would say, taken a lot of stress off of me as a teacher, because I can kind of give my kids assignments now, and they do them at their own pace, instead of, I give you the piece of paper, we have 30 minutes to complete it, and everybody has to be done within the 30 minutes, because we all know that different learners do things at different rates, and they learn at different rates. So that was fairly interesting to me. Also, it talked about how, especially with the analytics and privacy questions. So by 2020, there was supposed to be 110 million people on the Google apps for education, and how those platforms would have to beef up their privacy standards and how they share information with different companies, and employee data and all of that, so that your subscribers aren't at risk, because it's I mean, the numbers have jumped tremendously from the people who were using those Google apps to now. I think most education systems use them, because I use it every day.
I do too.
So that is what the technological trends were.
Sounds like like we've got a lot of upside in the way we can reach students.
Absolutely.
But then it may even dip back into some of the things that Nichelle was talking about with the social emotional disparities, because you said you feel like you have a teacher's assistant that's virtual, but at the same time you're kind of alone handling all of this, putting data here and assigning these things and monitoring and logging on. So it's kind of a mix. It sounds like to me in both categories, with, like I said, the technological advances, but maybe the social emotional distress in some parts.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I can attest to that, because I had computer burnout after last year. I really did not want to use or see a technological device. Like, I just wanted to be away from it, because I was overloaded on emails and video chats, and it was just too much. I needed to have human, interactions.
So, got it. I understand that.
Right. Yeah. Technology can be completely overwhelming.
Yes, it can be.
Just getting, even this meeting kind of going there was some
back
and forth.
Right.
But let's see what we have here. And I appreciate all you guys' feedback so far. But let's see what we have here. We got the economic trends. So I'll talk quickly about cost of higher education, future of work and skills, and then the climate change. So kind of in a nutshell, all of these things are moving in a new direction. We know that higher education has its own tuition deregulation, but at the same token, enrollment is going down across the states. And again, that big shell shock we had, COVID, it kind of made everybody take a step back. So with the tuition deregulation, universities are able to charge a bit more to make up for that lack of students or bodies on campus or virtually in some situations, to make up the deficit there, because there are a few budget cuts to fine tune. So they have to make up for the cash flow somewhere else. Work and skills of the future. We're in a gig economy is what the report was speaking about. Something like 133 million new jobs will be produced by 2022. Everybody's in Uber, everybody's on Lyft, and DoorDash, and all of these types of things. So people are looking to find new types of employment, and we know with the millennial and Gen Z crowd, we are, I don't want to say I don't always agree, but we get generalized as those who kind of like to jump ship a bit. And Gen Z is probably more often than not. So people are having to find, or campuses and institutions are having to find new ways to reach the student population, because those jobs aren't traditionally taught, in schools. So they're going to have to figure out how to speak to that crowd. And then of course, climate change, you get into different types of farming and organic research, and you get into different types of solutions that have not plagued our society, since its inception in large. So those types of FFA programs and agricultural programs are shifting towards more solar, towards more green energy. We do know, and I'll speak about it later, that there is a trying to be a green initiative pushed in the political world. So those things are having to be met in the campuses, on the campuses, for the educational world we experience now to continue to thrive and survive throughout the big changes here. So and I think we want to just kind of breeze on to the next one, because we're getting closer to the end here of our tear down and regurgitate of this report. So we're going to speak to higher education trends, and that's going to talk about the changes in student population, pathways of education or alternative pathways, and then the online education we all have experienced over the last 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely. So according to the Horizon report, the global fertility rate since 1960 has dropped by 50%. Wow. And we know that the baby boomer generation is of retirement age. So we're going to have a lot of knowledge gaps that are going to come up. And so higher education is going to need to address those knowledge gaps. With a smaller population, colleges are not going to be able to run like they used to, run the magnitude that they used to. It used to be about the whole college experience. I think in the future it's going to be about get in, get what you need, and get out. Right. So there is going to be a move toward micro degrees, nano degrees, just focusing on exactly what students need and what the workforce needs. So there may be even a partnership, a greater partnership with industries that will be able to partner with a institution of higher learning and say, this is exactly what we need. And the college will then have to tailor their curriculum according to what's needed, rather than just a general liberal arts degree that people used to be, it was available to them in the past. And of course, the move toward online learning is not just limited to higher education. I myself, in my own experience, I have students from all over the country, and even one from outside of the country. I have a student from South Africa. Being able to create a global learning environment is going to
Mhm.
be something that's going to mark higher education in the future. Now, of course, there's going to be some colleges that are not going to be able to keep up with that trend. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, many of those are going to be colleges that service more of minority and lower income students. And so I would hope to see in the future that the industries, the major industries that do tend to partner with those, I believe that Apple is actually partnering with Houston Tillotson University in Austin uh,
Okay.
to create a pathway for employment for their students. And I hope to see that trend continues.
Okay.
I do as well. I have to add that I would love the opportunity to have, a micro degree
Absolutely.
or expedited plan for me to receive more education because, and I hate to hit back on what we were talking about with the gig economy, but people are moving and shaking pretty fast. So if you can get a degree in 6 to 18 months versus 2 to 3 years, or 4 and 5 in some cases, that would be something I'd definitely be interested in.
So to piggyback off of what you're saying, Google offers that where you
Mhm.
go in and get your Google certifications. And once you become, there are different levels. You can be a trainer for Google. You can develop different programs for Google. And it's
Okay.
not a full college degree. It's through Google and they employ you to do
Oh
those.
wow.
And
That's
some of these
interesting.
other smaller companies who, I mean, everybody knows who Google is and, their brand speaks for itself. So if you're Google certified, then they'll
Hmm.
hire you as well to do things for them. So it's kind
Right.
of
Nice.
interesting.
Nice.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna switch over to our last piece here, and this should be my piece coming up. So it's the political trends, just a decrease in higher education funding, value of higher education, and political polarization. So I kind of start from the bottom. We know, you know, things have been quite politicized, and there's been a lot of fear mongering, and particular persons in charge have, you know, um, shown a characteristic that people haven't seen in probably the history of elections and presidential proceedings and campaigning. So that has to be taken into account with what is going on university campuses, and how things are also matriculated onto the K through 12 side. And I could speak to some things like CTR, critical race theory, are some hot buttons right now, and they look to be future hot issues, and that spills over into the higher education realm, and we're talking about the value here. um, Students, again, there's a decrease in students wanting to see higher education. All of this kind of ties in together with people in the gig economy, people finding faster ways to do things through artificial intelligence, people having distraught situations where they can't mentally and physically fathom walking into another campus. So all of those things are playing into what are the political trends, because people have to now make those types of policy accommodations for those particular groups. And then we have this decrease in higher education funding. And I found one particular line. I thought it was a bit misplaced to be in the political section of this Horizon report. I think the author of the report may have wanted to place it in a different place, or utilize it in a better fashion. The line was that the University of Arkansas budget was cut by 41% in 2019, and then it continued, and then they say continued federal funding for HBCUs and other minority serving institutions continue to be hotly contested by the U.S. Congress. And I thought those comparisons were a bit out of place, to make a lump judgment of the 107 HBCU campuses across the nation. And I believe those campuses are receiving about $133 million, which breaks down to roughly, $1 million per campus. And then to compare that to, this lone kind of campus in University of Alaska, out in Alaska, and I may have said Arkansas earlier. I'm sorry if I misspoke, but Alaska, to say their budget's being cut by 41%, to me doesn't speak to a equitable comparison here, because you have this one campus that serves 26,000 students. That's Alaska's campus, and then you have all of the HBCUs that are serving 320 some odd thousand individuals. I just don't see how that's a political debate, or how that is a issue to be put side by side, because these are individual campuses. This is one campus. This is one budget. That Alaska budget is $302 million. I can't speak to how much the conglomerate of HBCUs are, what their budget is together. But I know it's probably not anywhere near, the 302 million, and to say that these are hot issues and they deserve to be compared, as we say, apples to apples, it just doesn't make sense to me. So I think the author missed the mark on that one, on this report. Although those are factual things, comparison of those two, it just didn't sit well with me. But all in all,
I'm wondering if the political polarization is reflected in the author.
Yeah, that could be a large portion of that, because maybe this author's never had to consider what HBCUs receiving this amount of money in this time of crisis could do to other institutions, or the education system as a whole. So that could very well be it. But but I have to double down and say this is just misplaced data. It is data, right? It is true, it is factual, but it is not in any way should be compared to each other. So I hope Alaska makes it through the storm there, and I'm sure they will. I mean, they've been declining for the last. I researched this, on Ballotopedia, U.S. Department of Education, and University of Alaska's own websites, and they've been declining over the last decade steadily, and they've made it. So I know that their economy is built heavily on oil and gas, so they'll have to make those adjustments as well, because all of these things we spoke about, social, AI, technological stuff, all of these things are affecting them as well. But as they are also affecting HBCUs, and that's why probably the need for the $133 million funding was needed. Probably overdue, but glad it has been distributed this year. So if any of you all, if you want to have any final words, I've spoken my little piece here, and I think we've all done justice of the analysis of this Horizon report. But I don't want to take any of you all's last words, so to speak, here. Okay, no words.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
You're good.
Hey, just give me all the time. So we'll wrap up, and thank you all for watching, whoever you may be, and listening. I hope you've enjoyed our time here. I've enjoyed spending time with you young ladies, and discussing this, and looking to the future to see what we all can do in this educational rapidly changing world.
Absolutely.
So I'll see you all when I see you all.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you.
All right. You take care.